Hello, hello, hello. It is a good day. Um, why even say that? Every day's a good day. All right. This is day 4 of the New Testament in 30 Days challenge. This is something that God prompted me to do, and it's something I'm going to follow through with. When God leads us to do something, when we hear that still small voice, it is our job to obey. That obedience comes from relationship with Him. It comes from the desire to please Him. It comes from a place of faith. It comes from trust. And it comes from love. Jesus said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." He also said, "If you love me, feed my sheep." He's amazing. There's nothing like serving Him. It's not a chore. It's not a job. It is a joy. It is a privilege and an honor. And it is a blessing to even be able to do what He tells us and asks of us. So in this day 4, and if you're not subscribed, do that, because then you'll be prompted every time we go live with this. But it is a 30-day challenge, and this is day 4. And there's not a set schedule. We're just reading through it. Wherever the Spirit leads and however the Spirit leads, we just go for a while and then we stop. So it's not a certain number of chapters or anything like that. Where we currently are, and you can go back and catch the others if you haven't caught them, the other 3 days. And in the descriptions, I put the scripture so you can follow along of what we actually read in that, whether it was, 3 chapters or whatever. I'll put those actual scriptures in there. On this one so far, I just have Matthew 14 because that's where we're starting. We'll just start in verse 1 and we will go forward from there. And then after the broadcast, after the live feed, then I will go back and I will update that to show where we actually did end up and how far we went. So that being said, let's jump right in and get started. Matthew chapter 14 reads this. At that time, Herod, the tetrarch, heard of the fame of Jesus and said unto his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead. And therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him." For Herod had laid hold of John. Now here's the story. Here's what happened, and here's why I thought this. Had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. All right. For John said unto him, "It is not lawful for thee to have her." John said that. And when got him in trouble. And when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. That's biblical. That's backed up. Yeah, he had every right to fear that because the Bible literally says, "Touch not mine anointed." All right, going on. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Everything changes. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. The power of being pleased by a woman. I'm just going to say that. We got to be very super careful. And she, being before instructed of her mother, this wasn't her idea. It wasn't something she wanted. Her mother instructed her to do this. This story is actually incredible. It truly is. She said, "Give me here John Baptist's head in a charger." You think about that these days, and if you're at a birthday celebration and this is spoken, how horrifying. It would be awful. It would be awful to even suggest such a thing. But in those days, and that just shows you the power of your words. But in those days, that it is what it is. It was, and it happened. All right. And the king was sorry. He was sorry he had asked. Nevertheless, for the oath's sake, because in those days an oath meant something. You state something like that. Even the king, like in Esther, he said, whatever, what is it that you shall ask? Anything up to half of the kingdom. He said that too. And whatever she had asked for, he would grant it. That is the way of a kingdom. Oh, that's powerful. We need to get a hold of that. The mindset of a kingdom, because this is a kingdom of heaven. We're not used to that. We're used to very loosely spoken words that really, the word of a man used to mean something, and there's a reason for that. But these days you hear all kinds of words and very little follow through. And it makes you not believe anything, and it makes the words powerless. Like you get excited about somebody's going to do something, or you just believe them, or you're counting on them, and then they don't follow through. Then their words are powerless. And it's not supposed to be that way. It didn't start out that way. All right. And the king was sorry, nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it to be given her. How twisted she was. I don't know how to say that nicely. And he sent and beheaded John in the prison. Here's a great time to ask. What did John do wrong? Preach the gospel? Are you sold out for Jesus? I mean, are you prepared for no matter what happens, nothing will come in the way of that? Truly sold out? He was imprisoned for that. All right. And his head was brought in a charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. How foolish. She, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, this is not commentary that's spoken anywhere in the Bible. She could have had anything, and she did this. Yeah, it's pretty twisted. She did that for her mother, that evil vendetta, instead, because he spoke the truth to her and she didn't like it, so she was against him. All right. And his disciples came and took up the body and buried it and went and told Jesus. All right. When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. When the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude, and was moved with compassion toward them. And he healed their sick. See, that's the difference between Jesus and those in the world. Love. Like actual love. Not twisted, selfish, something called love that's not really truly love. He had compassion on them. And then when he had compassion on them, he didn't say, like you'll see so many today say, oh, that's too bad. He did something about it. Or, oh, that's so unfortunate. Or, oh, that's sad. But take no action. That's not Jesus. And that shouldn't be the followers of Jesus. And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude, like a lot of people, and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick. Let's make it very clear that he's still the same Jesus today. He still heals the sick. This isn't fairy tale stuff. This is real. This is what his followers do even now. All right. And when it was evening, his disciples came to him saying, this is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals. Food. Go buy food. But Jesus said unto them, they need not depart. Give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. It's like, Jesus, we don't have enough. They're thinking very rationally, very normally. He said, bring them hither to me. Bring them here. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. There's something important about saying a blessing before you eat. I've heard a lot of different opinions on that. I've heard people say, well, no, I'm not going to bless the food. I'll bless God for the food. But I'm like, No, I want to bless the food. I want to thank God for the food. But I'm going to say a blessing. Some people say grace. They call it all kinds of different things. What you're doing is you're saying a prayer. You're saying a prayer of thanks. You're also saying a prayer of protection. I pray that all the time. I hear people saying things like, oh, I got food poisoning. Thank you, Jesus. That hasn't happened to me. It sounds horrific. But I pray over my food. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't drink water out of a stream. Oh, yes, I can. Because God will protect me. And by the way, drinking water out of a stream is, call me old school, so much better, so much healthier than drinking the toxic water that is put from a municipal system in Dallas or somewhere into a bottle that is plastic and toxic on top of that. I think I'll just take my luck which I don't really believe in luck. I'll just take my chances. I will just take my healthier water that comes out of a God-given stream. Let me drink out of a spring coming up out of the ground. 100%. Oh yeah, so much safer. Anyway, I don't even drink city water. I won't do it. It's toxic. All right. That was all totally beside the point. And he commanded the multitude to sit down. Okay, we did that. He commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves to his disciples and the disciples to the multitude. So he gave it to the disciples. They passed it out, not to 1 or 2, but to the whole multitude. And they did all eat and were filled. And they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. We started out with these loaves and fishes, and we ended up with 12 full baskets of leftovers. That math ain't mathin'. That's the way God works. And I have actually seen this happen. We, at work, we were having a potluck one day, and we had all brought food. Well, my team was very low right then. I was low in staff. And we had a lot to do, so I had called in some help from another department, and there was like a whole bunch of people there working. And then that other department from another building wasn't expected, didn't know anything about the potluck and things like that. So we were like, will we have enough food? And we kind of discussed it for a second. One of my friends and I, we were like, we're both heads over 2 of the departments there in that building. And we were like, oh yeah, God will provide. He's going to multiply it, and there's going to be plenty. And he did. I have literally, we took the food out, and it was like there was the least we've ever had at one of these, but we ended up with almost as much as what we started with, and we fed like twice the people. It was, I want to say it was crazy, but it wasn't. It was miraculous. That's what God does. He is a modern day God still doing modern day miracles. So don't let anybody tell you that this stopped back in the Bible days, because we're still living it. I'm still seeing it. I still believe him, and he is still doing it. All right. And they did all eat, not just a little, not just to hold them over, and were filled. There was plenty. And they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. And they that had eaten were about 12? No. 20? No. 100? No. 5,000 men. Beside women and children. Y'all, that's incredible. That's our God. All right. And straightway, Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side. All right. While he sent the multitudes away. He didn't just leave them in need. They had been following him. They'd been listening to him. They had been, he'd been ministering to them. He'd been healing them. All this goodness. But then he looks at the physical needs also. He's not going to leave you in need. It's not just about the spiritual stuff. He cares about everything. He fed them. He didn't just say, here, now go walk home 12 miles to wherever your village is. That's not who he is. All right. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. You will see this often throughout the Bible. He is pouring out of himself into everyone else. Then he goes up into the mountain to pray. This is where the Father pours back into him, where Holy Spirit empowers him again. We have to be filled back up. It's just like your gas tank. You can't just keep driving forever and never fill your vehicle back up, or you're going to run dry. You're going to run out. You're going to run tired. You're going to stop. You're going to burn out. You can't do that. That's why it's so important, and we all need each other. We've got to keep pouring into each other because we're constantly pouring out into others. That's what ministry is. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the even was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea. Remember, he had sent the disciples to go to the other side. Tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. Don't let anybody tell you that is metaphorical. Don't let anybody tell you that that is impossible. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, we're talking literally, he was walking on top of the water. Literally. They were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit." And they cried out for fear. Why is it that fear is the first thing we always feel? You know, where was their faith? Why didn't they didn't even recognize him. They're like, oh, it's a spirit. We think worst case scenario when we see something that is unexpected. Change is hard. We don't like things that are different. We don't want to adapt to that. And we're like instantly like, what is that? Fear. But straightway, that's like immediately. That's like right away. Jesus spoke unto them. And he said, be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. And of course, they're going to know his voice. They're followers of his. They're spending all this time with him. And the first thing he says, well, second thing, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Be of good cheer. It's me. Don't be scared. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, he's still not sure. He's just not sure. If it be thou, Lord, if it be you, bid me come unto thee on the water. If it's you, you tell me to come to you. And he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. So here we have two of them doing it. It's not just a Jesus thing. It's I asked you to come and you came. It's I asked you to do something. And you know what? Peter asked him first, Lord, let me do this. And he answered him, which he does still do that today. Through prayer or communication, he still answers. He still speaks to us. Sometimes when we're not expecting it, that still small voice, he does communicate. And then he just did it. Peter did it. To go to Jesus. He just walks out on the water. Talk about faith. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. There is that fear again that always seems to sneak in and beginning to sink. He cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately, see, Peter did the right thing. When we begin to sink, when we begin to fail, when we begin to feel like we're failing or falling or faltering or flailing about or whatever it is we feel like we're doing, we call on Jesus. And I'm going to say this again. He didn't say, let me make an appointment on your calendar. In 2 weeks from now, I will come and pick you up. No, it's not what the word says. He's not that kind of God. It says, and immediately, it's like right now, no delay, immediately, Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. It just makes me want to stop and go, you're just now catching on to that. But, you know, who knows what all had happened. But in this moment, or maybe they already knew, but they were just like amazed all over again. And it's reflected in their words. And I get that because he keeps doing things and I'm just in awe over and over and over. And then I think, he's God. Maybe I shouldn't be in awe. But then I'm like, no, Lord, I want to always be in awe. But I always also want to expect you to do those things because it's who you are. So it's not rare. It's commonplace. If you're kingdom minded, you will see the miracles he is doing. He's still doing them. All right. And when they were gone over, they came into the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all the country round about, and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. As many as touched were made perfectly whole. Talk about power. Just to touch the hem of his garment. And this isn't the only place we hear that. Just to get close enough to touch him. Not to sign a big petition, not to beg a big plea, not to go through a whole spiel, just touch the hem of his garment. Just barely come in contact with him. And so much power is released that they were healed. It's amazing. I mean, it's the same thing right there as the woman with the issue of blood. Same thing. So much power. Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, they always seem to appear. That's still a thing that happens today too. Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? They come in talking smack. For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Something to pick him apart for every single time they approach. But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? Ooh. He turned it on him. For God commanded, saying, he's just asking a question, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, whoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God and of none effect by your tradition. Ye hypocrites. I mean, he tells it like it is. I love his boldness. I love how point blank that he is. People these days won't even preach the truth because they're afraid of offending somebody. If I offend someone, now I'm not rude, I'm not hateful, I'm not overbearing, but I'm going to speak the truth. I'm not going to speak in fear and be all timid about speaking the word, the truth. Usually if we get offended, here's the truth. If we get offended, it's usually because it's conviction and the word is stepping on our toes a little. Probably because we got our toes somewhere that they don't belong. That's the truth of the matter. Ye hypocrites, he said. Well did Esaias prophesy of you, saying, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. We still see that today too. But in vain do they worship, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. And he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and understand. Which means, this is important, listen. Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defiles a man. Think on that one. Think on that one through the next 24 hours and everything that comes out of your mouth. That's what defiles you. Then came his disciples and said unto him, knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? Like, Jesus, did you know you offended them? Of course he knew. But he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Now he's speaking metaphorically, saying they're not of God. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Yes, we still see that today. Unfortunately, sadly, there's much out there. Many people being deceived. Then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. He's like questioning it. Like, what do you mean? And Jesus said, are you also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goes into the belly and is cast out into the drought? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man. But to eat with unwashen hands defileth not a man. And again, that's why you pray over everything. You're not defiled. You're not unholy because you didn't. I mean, granted, gross. Don't but that's not a spiritual issue. And they're trying to claim it in the law as this is a big sin. He's like, whatever. That's not the important things. There's so much more important than what you're harping on and trying to catch me in right here because of how my disciples are behaving. These are guys that have been out on a ship for how long? They're fishermen. They're not like, they're just plain folks. All right. Then Jesus went thence and departed into the coasts of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. Today, okay, don't get mad, but here we go. Today, she would have taken them to this is my country, a Western medical doctor who would have labeled her as some kind of mental disorder and medicated her for the rest of her life. It would never have cured her. It never would have really helped. And it would have had severe and possibly fatal side effects. That's what we do now. And we can't even recognize, unless we're spiritual and know and get in this word and have a relationship with Jesus and believe the words that are in this book, we wouldn't even be able to recognize because we're so made callous to it and everything is labeled as a disease. We wouldn't even know that she was grievously vexed with a devil. If you get nothing else from this, everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. She knew what it was. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to dogs. And she said, truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. There's another immediately. Another exactly how Jesus works. Now it seems like he's being hateful here or being snippy. I think he's just giving her an opportunity to show her faith and to not give up and to let him know she's serious. I do believe in you. I do know you can do this, and I want this. Sometimes we've got to fight for what we want. Not just, we're so scared of rejection that we wouldn't even ask in the first place. And then when we do ask, it's like a little meek, oh, I'd like to have this. And then when we don't get it right away, then we're just like impatient or unbelieving, or I knew he wouldn't do it anyway, or he'll do it for others, but not all this. The lies of the enemy come in She was persistent. She was like, I want this. I need this for her. Please, Lord, help me. She was tenacious in this. She was persistent in this. That's faith. You act on your faith. You don't just wishy-wash around. She believed and she wanted it and she went after it. That's what we have to do. It has to be important enough to us. And Jesus departed from thence and came nigh unto the Sea of Galilee, and went up a mountain and sat down there. And great multitudes came unto him, having with them those that were lame, blind, dumb, maimed, and many others, and cast them down at Jesus' feet. He didn't like throw them down. Placed them down at his feet, and he healed them. You heard that list, right? They were lame, blind, dumb, like can't speak, maimed. That's like what? An arm cut off? And many others. There's nothing that he can't do. Get that out of this. There's nothing he can't do. It doesn't say he dispensed a medicine for a cold. These are like big giant things. And without any aids of any kind, he just healed them. That aid was power of the Holy Ghost. Insomuch that the multitude wondered when they saw the dumb to speak, the maimed to be whole. Like there was that arm grown back. How cool is that? The lame to walk. Can you imagine being in like these days we would picture it as a wheelchair your whole entire life, which if that wasn't even invented then, he's like dragging himself around. And then you just get up and walk in an instant. And the blind to see. Can you imagine? Oh, we take things for granted. Can you imagine being blind? You know what? And they glorified the God of Israel. Let me just stop right there and just tell you this. We had a miracle service once, and this has probably been, so many years ago, 20, maybe 18, 15 years. Let me just tell you what faith will do, and let me tell you what doubt will do. All right. So we had this miracle service. We prayed, we fasted, we prepared for this. And it wasn't because it was called a miracle service. It wasn't because we had some famous speaker come in. It wasn't because they paid any money for anything. It was because we as a church wanted to see God move. We were praying, we were fasting, we were already seeing him do things, and we were being obedient. The pastors, I was praise and worship leader there at this time, had been there for like 7 years. And they, God told them to do it. So they did it. So we're having this service. And in this service, we are, we happen to all be up at the front. And we were kind of just up in a line, and they had prayed and everything had happened. And there was all kinds of things that did happen. And I was praying for others. I mean, we were kind of praying for each other, all of us ministers, but I wasn't thinking about me. This was totally not something physically that I had sought or anything. But then I was standing there, and here's a little tidbit about me you didn't know. But I was standing there, and all of a sudden I looked at the pastor and I said, "Your tie is red. Your tie is red." And he looked at me like, "Yeah." I said, No. Your tie is red. Like your tie is red." And he was like, "Yes." I said, "No, you don't understand. Your tie is red. It wasn't red when I got here." And then he caught on because after all these years, he knew me well enough. I was colorblind. He knew that I couldn't see like reds and greens, purples and blues. That all got mixed up with me. So yeah, there's a little tidbit about me you didn't know before. So then he realized what I was saying. Your tie is red. Like I'm seeing red. I see it. And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so we're like glorifying God in this moment and realizing that I hadn't even asked for it. But in this miracle service, when God had shown up in so many ways, he had healed my eyes. And see, I never expected to be healed from that. I knew that, I mean, at the time I wore glasses and stuff like that. But here's what happened though. And then I drove home and I realized it wasn't just the color that was healed. It was dark. And with the headlights, I was like, I can see everything clearly. And it wasn't, there was always a glare and stuff like that. And I couldn't drive at night very good and all this. And I just could not believe the clarity and the crispness on this drive home of everything I was seeing. And I was just amazed. I was glorifying God and I was just praising God all the way home. And I had messaged them when I got there and I was like, you're not going to believe this. This and this and this happened too. So I'm sharing with them and I'm sharing with everybody else. Here's what happened. Now I was in a worldwide company in an office setting, big, huge building, floors and floors and floors. And the next day, these folks had known me for like 12 years. And so I'm sitting there and I'm prompted to pull up on my computer one of those colorblind charts and show the girls. I was like, I'm going to show them. I can see, the ones I'm talking about. They got all the dots in them and there's like a 2 or a sailboat or something. And those were those charts that I've never been able to see because there's nothing in them. And they're all like, yes, there is. And I'm like, no, there's not, because I can't see the colors. So I was going to pull that up. And in that moment, I was going to show them. I was like, look what God did. In this moment, the thought crept in, and this comes from the enemy. This is straight from the pits of hell. What if you can't see it? Fear, doubt, unbelief. And I stopped. This was my moment to glorify God. This was my moment when he was going, show them what I can do. Show them what I have done. And I didn't do it. And I stopped and I didn't show them. Now, this may sound cruel. It may sound bad, but because of my unbelief, I lost that miracle. I lost it. It was a really great lesson for me in faith. I still believe God can do anything, but for whatever reason, my disobedience. He told me to do something. He told me to show them. And I didn't trust him enough. I had already seen the miracle. I had already seen clearly. I had already seen color. Why doubt? There was no reason to doubt. That's a trick of the enemy. Fear. When it creeps in and tries to convince you that God isn't real, the miracle isn't real, these things don't happen. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Literally, because, you're in hell. But yeah. So I'm colorblind again. Still, that was years ago. Do I feel like he will still heal me one day? Yes. I'm kind of just, okay, God, whatever. I get it. But do I think about it now? When he prompts me to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to tell everybody. And I will have no fear. I will have no unbelief. Because he is God and he does still heal. So I know what it's like when the blind then see. I can't imagine though, if you've never seen it all, like you can't drive, you can't read, you don't know what clothes you're putting on unless you just know them by touch, but what are they really? You can't see people. You're limited in your work. You're limited in everything, doing laundry, everything, walking about. How glorious to have that happen. So, all right. Now, verse 32, we're still in chapter 15. Then Jesus called his disciples unto him and said, I have compassion on the multitude, because they continue with me now 3 days. Let's stop and think. Same Jesus. How many folks are you going to get to stay in a service at church now for like 3 days? The multitude followed him for 3 days. He was performing miracles for 3 days. And he has compassion on them because they continue with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. I will not send them away fasting, lest they faint in the way. Complete care and love for them. And his disciples say unto him, whence shall we have so much bread in the wilderness as to fill so great a multitude? Did we not just do this? Did they not see the miracle just happen? So he asks them, how many loaves have you? And they said 7 and a few little fishes. So we still got leftovers. We've been 3 more days with this big multitude and the 12 baskets and we're still eating on it. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves and the fishes and gave thanks and brake them and gave to the disciples and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up the broken meat that was left, 7 baskets full. Again, didn't we start with 7 baskets? 7 and a few little fishes. We ended up with exactly what we started with after we fed them all. That's a miracle of God. That is a miracle of God. Same power, yesterday, today, and forever. Same one we're serving now. He's real. He's that real. Today. This isn't just historic stories. Same God. Same God. And they did eat, and they that did eat were 4,000 men, beside women and children. That's a lot of bread. It's a lot of bread. And he sent away the multitude and took ship and came into the coast of Magdala. Magdala, not a professional name pronouncer in the Bible. All right. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. These are the ones that keep trying to set him up. The Pharisees and the Sadducees. These are the religious folks. Same thing happening today. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the sign of the times? A wicked and adulterous generation seeking after a sign. And there shall be no sign given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And he left them and departed. And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have taken no bread. Which, when Jesus perceived, he said unto them, he perceived it. Did you catch that? They reasoned amongst themselves. They didn't say it out loud to him. He knows. He knows these things. He knows everything. He perceived it and said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye amongst yourselves, because you have no bread? Do you not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you took up, neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many baskets you took up? How is it that you do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning bread, that you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Same warning goes today. There's a lot of doctrines out there of the religious folks that we need to be wary of. We need to steer clear of. When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I am? That I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, but whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And by the way, Christ means anointed one. It's not like his last name. Thou art the anointed one. And Jesus answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. The Father told you that. You're right. That is who I am. That's what he's saying to him. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now we will read later in Acts where that happens. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus, the Christ. From that time forth began Jesus to show unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and the chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Keep in mind, it's the religious people that did this to him. I'm not against religion, but these are not heathens. These are the very ones that say they're religious, that say they're obeying the laws of the Bible, that say they're leading people to this place, but they're coming against Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. All right. And Peter took him and began to rebuke him. He was like, that is not going to happen. He's like acting out of love for him. And sometimes we do that. We become overzealous because we don't want these things to happen. But if it's God's will that these happen, this is his plan, that Jesus do this. That's why he came. But Peter took him and began rebuking him, saying, be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. He's like, no, I don't want that to happen. But he turned and said unto Peter, Jesus did, get thee behind me, Satan. For thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, that those that be of men. It's like you're saying what you want. You're not saying what God's plan is. Don't we do that sometimes? Totally, we refuse God's plan for our life because it's not what we want. Not even knowing that what he wants for us has to happen or should happen is for our good. It's for the best for us because he knows it's better than we do. He knows the big plan. We don't. We're supposed to be obedient so that he can protect us and provide for us and meet all of our needs. 24. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whomsoever shall save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world? Everything you could think of here. Gain the whole world and lose his own soul. Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? And let me just say this. That's what you're doing. If you're choosing something, someone, over God, over his call on your life, over your salvation, that's more important to you than this, whether it be your pride, whether it be lust, whether it be money, whether it be a person, whether it be a job, whether it be a location. If you're in disobedience and not doing what God is asking you to do, you're choosing that over this. What shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Do your works matter? Yeah. Yeah, actually they do. You will get rewarded for them. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. All right. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain, and was transfigured before them. Not everybody, not the full crowd, the select 3, his inner circle, those closest to him. He was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, here's Peter again with his own ideas, trying to do good things. Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here thy tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elias. While he yet spoke, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my son, my beloved son, it says, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Listen to him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. This is a big booming voice coming out of the clouds. Very real, and they all heard it. And Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, be not afraid. He knew exactly what was going on. This is his Father. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man, only Jesus himself. And as they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man, until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Same thing's going to happen again. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him, saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic, and sore vexed. For oft times he falleth into the fire, and oft into the water. Let me point out again that he knew he was sore vexed with the devil. This dad knew that he was vexed with the devil. He didn't take him to a medical doctor and medicate him. He didn't think it was some disease. He knew he was sore vexed with the devil. Everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. And I brought to him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. All right. At this point, I'm just going to interject that faith is real. Healings are real. Let me give you an example. My aunt actually had breast cancer, and I prayed with her, and I literally felt the power of God like come out of my hands. I 100% knew that she was healed. She knew 100% knew that she was healed. She goes back to the doctor, and the doctor literally told her, cancer doesn't just go away. And he proceeded to very quickly push her into surgery, make her have all these things done, because he did not want to have to explain when he took more tests that nothing was there. She did not stand up as much as she should have, in my opinion, to him. She was not just a bold woman. And she was a woman full of faith, and she absolutely knew she was healed. But they instead went ahead and did this surgery, and it basically ruined her life. She was then self-conscious for the rest of her life. She was then in states of depression the rest of her life. And she was never the same. She was already healed. The surgery wasn't necessary. She could have went on glorifying God the rest of her life, telling this miracle, telling this testimony. But instead, a doctor who did not believe forced her, and not that he forced her, but he just point blank told her, no, we're going on with this. And we're so well trained to believe anything that a doctor says. I don't. But it's like the doctor is God, and we just think we think they know best. Never believe the word of a doctor over the word of God. I'll just put it to you like that. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him here to me. He's like, y'all are my followers. Why are you not able to do this? Because of your unbelief. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. He didn't send him into treatment. He didn't give him pills. He didn't shock him. He spoke to him. He spoke to the devil, not the kid. He spoke to the devil within him, rebuked him. Jesus having more power, and the devil had to go. You think there ain't power in your words? Absolutely there is. All right. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Another immediately. That's the power of God. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart, like not out in front of everybody, and said, why could we not cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove. And nothing shall be impossible unto you. It doesn't say it might remove. It doesn't say it could remove. It says it shall remove. It shall remove. I will interject there just for a second. Shall. I always look at that word because of my background in trucking, in the trucking industry. And I was a safety compliance auditor for many years, auditing driver's logs, things like that for compliance, safety compliance, hours of service regulations. You're only allowed to drive a truck X amount of hours, that sort of thing, looking at their logs and all this. Now, there are certain regulations that say, oh, for example, if you're in a town less than 15 minutes, if you're in a town 15 minutes, you shall drive, this is back in the days when it was all by hand, not computerized. You shall draw a line and drop down for 15 minutes. You got to show where you're at all times. And these laws and regulations are due to fatigue because you're driving a massive weapon. Should you fall asleep, you're going to wipe out a family in a minivan or whatever, or a town, down a sidewalk. There's many things that can happen. And that's what I did was audit those things after accidents. So I do know about all that. But that's what you shall do this. Now, that means you're going to do it. It's a government regulation. But there were certain things like if you're there 7 minutes, you may flag it. You may just draw a line down. You don't have to drop down, for that 15-minute increment, but you may just flag it and say, hey, I was right here, city and state. You don't have to. You may, but shall in the regulations was like, you shall means you do it. There's not an option. So I like to think about that word when I'm reading this. Remove hence to yonder place, he says, and it shall remove. Like you have authority over that. If you are in relationship with Jesus Christ and you're living this life and doing everything you can, it shall, and you believe. The key thing here is you have to believe. That's what he told him. You couldn't get it to come out because of your unbelief. And we are in a very watered down society. A very watered down gospel is being taught. What a shame. It's so watered down. And that's the culture that we're being taught, that people don't even realize they don't believe. They're taught some lower level standard of this is what God does, or that he doesn't do it. There's even those teaching that he doesn't do it anymore, but that is not what this Bible says. And it says, these things he tells the disciples, they're to us too. Are we not disciples of Christ? Are we not followers of Christ? Did he not say to us, come and follow me? Did he not say greater signs and wonders shall follow them that believe? Well, yes, he did say that. Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if you have the faith as the grain of a mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder, and it shall remove. Shall remove. That word shall, which comes back. And I want to say this, if a grain of a mustard seed of faith can move that mountain, come on now, what does a grain of a mustard seed of doubt do? Just like the story I told you about my color blindness, about my healing, about my unbelief. That's what it does. Doubt is so powerful too. Unbelief, just like that verse we read, I think it was yesterday, that he couldn't do anything in his hometown because of their unbelief. You have to believe. You have to believe. Then he goes on to say about this child vexed with the devil. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Very real today. And I would suggest doing it regularly. I would suggest doing it as he tells you to. Fasting is very different. Prayer is very different for everybody, but do it. Do it as he calls you to do it. Not to be seen, not of your own accord, but if he tells you to fast, something's coming up and you need to be prepared for it. This is not a time to dilly-dally. This is not a time to be wishy-washy. This is not a time to be disobedient. If the Lord tells you to fast, do it, because he needs you for something, and he's preparing you for that and building your faith and building the power within you. Do not delay. Do not procrastinate. Do not do it. Don't be disobedient if he's telling you to do that, because he's telling them right there, you couldn't, maybe they weren't prayerful, maybe they weren't fasting, and they didn't believe. He told them that point blank. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. And there's no telling how long it had been since he had eaten. He was probably in prayer and fasting often. When he goes to the mountains, that's what he's doing. He's being with his Father. He's preparing, he's filling back up to go back out and pour out into them again. And while they abode in Galilee, Jesus said unto them, the Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him. And the third day he shall be raised again. And they were exceeding sorry. It's like breaking to someone, to a dear, dear friend of yours, I'm going to die. You don't take that news well. And they were like, but we're following you. We're following you. They had uprooted everything. They had left everything. They had left their occupations. They had left their family. Right here, I'm going to say, how devoted are you to following Jesus? All those things I just said they did, legit. Like, they actually did that. They did it. Not metaphorically. They left their families. They left their job. They left the familiarity. They left their hometown. They followed him immediately and did whatever he was doing and learned from him. They didn't just maintain their daily life and add a little Jesus in when it was convenient. No, they dropped everything and they followed him. And when they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, doth not your master pay tribute? He said, yes. And when he was come into the house, Jesus prevented him, saying, what thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute, of their own children or of strangers? Peter saith unto him, of strangers. Jesus saith unto him, then are the children free. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go thou to the sea and cast a hook and take up the fish that first cometh up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. That take and give unto them for me and for thee. So, yes, we're going to do it. No, we may not have it. We don't want to offend them. We don't want to fight on our hands. But here's a miracle to go get the money. Go do this. And might I add that Peter was obedient. He didn't go down there and kick rocks on the seashore. Oh, I ain't going to find nothing in the mouth of a fish. I'm just going to look for a coin. No, he was obedient. He went and did what Jesus said. And it happened exactly like Jesus said. That's how it works. That's how it works. You do what Jesus said, and it will happen exactly like he said. At the same time, came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? I can only imagine all the questions that they asked of him all the time. We would do the same thing. I know I would. And Jesus called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them and said, verily, I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. Children, believe. I totally see why he says this. If you're sick, if you've got a need, if you've got something that's serious and you really need it to happen, go to a child, a believer, a child who knows. Let them pray. And you will see a healing. You will see an answer. They reach heaven because there's no unbelief. Their minds are not clouded. They just believe it. They just believe it. They haven't been taught all the lies. They just know that Jesus is who Jesus says he is. They've been taught the stories. They've read, had the Bible read to them, and they just believe. So they get the reactions. They get the results. They get their answers. Because they believe. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck. That was a very large thing, by the way, a millstone. This is not a necklace. And that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. That would be better than for them to hurt one of these. Woe unto the world because of offenses. For it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to the man by whom the offenses come. Wherefore, if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than have 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire. Take heed that ye despise not. He goes back to it. He says it again. One of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father's, which is in heaven. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. How think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, does he not leave the 99 and go into the mountains and seeketh that which was gone astray? And if it so be that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more of that sheep than of the 99 which went not astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. And too many times, that's symbolic of believers and the followers, and it's not necessarily about sheep, but he's giving a great example in sheep. And I've been the one that went astray. I've been the one that went the other way, and he came after me. He loved me enough. Yes, he's got the 99 over there, but he loves me enough. He loves you enough. They're okay. The rest of the fold is okay. They're right there to come and get you. To come, and even though you're in the wrong, even though you're astray, you're out there doing your own thing, he loves you enough to bring you back in, to come back and say, come on back to me. What an incredible Father. What an incredible Lord. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault. Instead, we just, this one hasn't been at church in like 3 weeks. Go get him. Message him. Check on him. What's going on? Why? Are they okay? Do they need help? Do you need to go over there? Love them. Love them. But instead, we're just like, yeah. And if they make you mad, then they're like, well, no. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, If they do something against you, they do something wrong, go tell him his fault. Hey, you did this the other day. I just, hey, can we talk? This happened. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. I don't know. Or can we just talk about this? This is how this made me feel. This is what happened. Talk about it. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of two or three witnesses every word may be established. Now this is like he really did do something wrong. He didn't listen to you. We're going to take a couple more and we're going to try this again. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. Do you know how much stuff is swept under the rug that happens in the church? But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen and a publican. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again, I say unto you, that if the two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that thou shalt ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. He's right with us. I told you the other day, there is such power when believers get together, because he is in the midst. He's right there, making his presence known. Oh, it's powerful. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Like, I hear what you say, but how many times am I supposed to do this? Jesus said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Whew. That's a lot. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But forasmuch as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant, went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, and he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me what thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison until he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord what was done. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you asked me to. Should not thou also have compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And his Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. Mercy. We've got to show mercy. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if you from your hearts forgive not everyone his brother their trespasses. It is so important to forgive. We can't let that bitterness come in. We can't let hate come in. Just unforgiveness it's so wrong. It's so evil. It does so much damage. It really, really, really does. All right. All right. Going on a little further. Chapter 19. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coast of Judea beyond Jordan. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. You seeing the pattern here? And great multitudes, okay, I just read that. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. The Pharisees, here we go again. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, and this is a setup. They're just trying to see what he'll say and catch him in something. Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that he which has made them at the beginning made them male and female? And said, for this cause, shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh? Wherefore, they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. There it is. They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? Which he did. That's in there. He saith unto them, Moses, and here's why. Because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. It was because they turned so hard in their hearts. It was to protect the wives that he did that, because they were just doing whatever, but not divorcing them, but doing whatever anyway. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whoso marrieth her, which is put away, doth commit adultery. His disciples saith unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. They're like, well, let's just not do this then. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Then were there brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked them. But Jesus said, and so many times children are pushed aside, like they're not little people, like they don't matter, But Jesus said, suffer little children and forbid them not. He's like, no, you bring them here to come to me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them and departed thence. And behold, one came and said unto him, all right, question. Good master, what good things shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. Now listen, y'all. He said unto him, which? Jesus said, thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, honor your father and your mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The young man saith unto him, all these things have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? Have you ever noticed that the Lord is very personal? He doesn't give cookie cutter answers. He's very personal to you, to who you are, to what affects you, to what holds you back, to what your situation is, to what your mindset is. Super personal guy. Then Jesus said unto him, if thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Jesus knew that. Then Jesus said unto his disciples, Verily I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Now, this is not a literal needle, sewing needle. This is, the eye of a needle was a gate, a narrow gate that they went through. And what this means is the camel would come in burdened down with a load, but he couldn't fit through this gate. They had to unpack the camel to get him through the gate. And we need to unpack some things. And many times Jesus will tell us what it is in our lives that we need to unpack. That's what he was trying to do to this gentleman. He was like, you're too attached to your money, to your things. And honestly, that stops many people from serving God the way that even our jobs, well, I would love to go do ministry work, or I'd love to do, but I gotta go to work, or I'd love to go pray with them, but I've got to be at work. There's so many things that we put before God and before the will of God. And that is not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be. When his disciples heard it, they were exceedingly amazed, saying, who then can be saved? Who? Like this is impossible. But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. Trust. You got to trust him. You've got to believe. Then answered Peter and said unto him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And Jesus said unto him, they did too, man. They dropped it. They dropped everything and they went. And Jesus said unto them, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me, in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And every one that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or fathers, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, just had this situation happen today. He is such an on-time God. Just had this conversation with someone today. There's so much that gets in our way of serving God. Got our priorities wrong. And everyone that has forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold. 100-fold. And shall inherit everlasting life. But we want to hang on to those things, those people, instead of doing the will of our Father. Then what you hang on to is all you've got. When you could have it all. You could have it all. That's what he wants for us. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Wow. Wow, y'all. Wow, he said it right there. You know, it's just like in the commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Don't put anything before him. Stuff, people, plans, expectations, jobs, mindset, hurts, whatever, money. Don't put anything in front of him. He's so good to us. He is so, so, so good to us. All right. I don't even know how many chapters that was, but we're going to stop there for now. Thank you for watching. Again, subscribe so that you'll know when I go live again on the next one. And when we take off again, it'll be Matthew 20 is where we're going to start. Okay. So can I just pray with you before we go? All right. Our Father in heaven, all glory be to you. All glory be to you. You're so good. You are so, so good to us. Let us realize that it really doesn't benefit us any at all to put anything else before you. You meant what you said. If we will just put you first, you'll give us everything we need. And then above and beyond that, an everlasting life. You will never forsake us. You will never leave us. You will never betray us. We have no reason not to trust you. You will do nothing but take care of us. You will do nothing but make a way for us. You will do nothing but prosper us. You will do nothing but heal us. You don't do evil to us. We're so used to people doing evil to us. We're so used to people letting us down. We're so used to hearing the unbelief that we don't even realize the impact of if we just believe, if we just trust you. You cover it all. You take care of it all. You know our innermost thoughts. You know the things we haven't even spoken. You know how to heal everything. The hurts, the emotion, the trauma, the things that we don't speak of. The financial stuff, the relationship stuff, the job stuff, the family stuff, the house breaking and falling apart stuff, the car, the tire, the flat. You know everything there is to do about us. Let us put you first. Let us seek you. Let us abide in you, in your presence, and let us remain there. Let us not put anything in front of you. Let us absorb everything you've spoken to us today through your word and take nothing for granted. Let us be thankful always and continue to just pray without ceasing. You're worthy of our time. You're worthy of our thanks. And I ask you, God, anybody that watches this video, anybody that was with me during this, bless them, meet every need that they have, and show them truly how real that you are. All this I ask, and I praise you for it already. In Jesus' powerful and precious name. Amen. All right, y'all. You're amazing. Be blessed.